What exactly is your role?
A case officer, that's the gentleman who will handle a source, and it's the source that we call a secret agent. In fact, the source is the person who is in the useful structure where the intelligence needs to be sought.
And what is an excellent case officer?
Is the one who knows how to manipulate others, who has succeeded in making the other betray his country. That's the ultimate and wipes out all morality.
So do you have to invent a fake life for yourself?
Yes, let's say a fake one. And that falls into what we call a legend. It takes several months to prepare a legend. In other words, to acquire a fake job, a fake driver's license, and a fake passport. All biographical details, including date and place of birth, are fabricated.
So how do you recruit your sources?
I'll take a standard example. Let's suppose the government is interested in helicopter manufacturing. The government's goal is to see what other countries, friends, allies, other foreign engineers are doing in terms of helicopter manufacturing. So we will send a case officer to the country in question, and this case officer who must speak the language of the country. Of course, we'll look for, at best, a person who works in the factory where the helicopters are manufactured. To do this, he will first surround the structure, and his problem will be to look for an engineer, in any case, a person who works in the factory. Make yourself known in this person's environment so that they are not surprised the day you ask them a question. After a month or two, we start to know her well. And little by little, you get him to bring you documents, I would say interesting, not necessarily secret and interesting. That takes a long time to do. It takes months.
Have you ever been afraid for yourself, for your family?
No, not really, no. Because we are trained for that. We are trained to react to unexpected or dangerous situations. Sure, I'd appreciate an example to better understand the task. I was in Ethiopia during the time of the Great Famine of the 80s, when it was Mengistu Haile Mariam who was the said actor of Ethiopia at the time. And there was a terrible famine. During this famine one day, neighbors came with 2 or 3 salads, because a fresh round salad during a famine is a treasure. It's an extraordinary thing. My training that I received for a year in Paris at the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure led me to be cautious nonetheless. And I had rabbits because I had grandchildren. I gave these salads to the rabbits. The next day they were dead nonetheless. That means the job is dangerous. If they hadn't been cautious and taken that precaution, I wouldn't be here speaking with you now. That much is evident, right? Here are some other questions.
How did you experience this situation?
I experienced this situation by being very careful with myself and my family. When, for example, during the first Gulf War in the year 1990, I was in Pakistan. We were considered as infidels by the Pakistanis who idolized Saddam Hussein. We were regarded very poorly. And then at that time, I had a revolver with me, so I was driving around with a fake license plate. The children in the school, we had changed schools. Well, we still took care of our skin. We were in a dangerous country.
Was the family aware?
They didn't know what I was doing, the same way when I was abroad. Undercover. The cover is a profession that one appropriates to pretend. For example, when I was in Ethiopia, I was under diplomatic cover. In other words, I was taking on the profession of an embassy secretary and my work as a case officer. On the other hand, when I was undercover, I was working under a legend, and there we joined the legend office, if you will. Well, I had a job, a fake, everything was fake. The driver's license, social security, my birth date, place of birth, all of that, it was fake.
The method they taught you to succeed in getting the contact you need to approach, to betray.
There are several methods. In fact, it's a set. There's everything. There's close combat to opening safes or car locks. I learned how to open letters without anyone noticing. That's all part of the training.
I have a lot of mail right now, and I would really like to open my letters.
So the best, I said once because now the colors may not be the same anymore. Be careful. Simply by steam we go, but be careful. It must not be too strong, too humid steam. Otherwise the paper will warp. We have tools to make dry steam, so that we can easily glue with all the elements. The glue must not run.
Do you have any small handling tips to pass on to us so we can handle humans?
Very good question. Well, it takes time, first of all. A lot of time. It can last several months. That's why our job is expensive. How to do it? First, you need to understand the person's environment and habits. What vehicle does he take to go to work? What are his hobbies? Does he play sports? What sport? How do we do that? Under what circumstances? Well, you have to introduce yourself to the person, not abruptly, but slowly. If he takes the train, for example, or the bus. People used to smoke on trains in the past. You might think asking for a light is easy, but that's not true. You need to find the right subject to ask. And little by little, you're going to sit next to him in the morning. If he plays tennis, well, play tennis like him. At the same place, get a membership, even if it costs you. Even if you don't know how to play tennis, you do it. Demonstrate your ability to do it, despite not knowing how initially. Learning is required first, as it's an art. You know, I always say we are bastards dressed in gentlemen's clothes. Sometimes I've thought to myself, damn, I do have a job that's not common.
I don't know if you know the Totally Spies. Their boss is Jerry, and he was always giving them stuff. Accessories for secret agencies. And among these accessories, there was mascara that transformed into a deadly weapon. Are there everyday objects that can be turned into weapons?
Yes, I've done close combat and hand-to-hand combat. You can kill with something like a briefcase. Oh, yes.
It's true that I've already cut myself with a leaf. Yes. What kills in a briefcase that slips?
When you go fast, you quickly bring out the edge between the legs. I assure you, it can hurt.
Yes.
What is the craziest or hardest thing you had to do to build a legend?
Ah, there we go. Very good. That's a question I was going to ask myself. Would you sleep with a girl to get information?
It depends.
It's tempting though, isn't it? You who are a man behind...
It depends on the girl. It depends on the girl. Be careful. Exactly.
You don't know the girl I'm talking about. I said no to her. I said no. Firstly, because of personal ethics. So we chose another person who she accepted.
Okay. So that, for example, it's one of your limits.
Of my limits. Yes, it's the only one, in fact, for the rest. Oh, yes, I want to do whatever we want.
So it doesn't bother you, for example, to execute someone by accident or not?
I wasn't in that department. There's the action service. It's there for that.
But how does that happen? That it causes you more problems to sleep with a woman than to kill a woman or a man or someone?
Because the bond between a husband and a wife is a sacred bond. That's it. That's all.
And life, isn't it sacred?
In itself, of course. But when it comes to saving one's skin for reasons that the state deems useful, at that point, yes, life may be sacred, but it can be taken away. What I'm saying might be stupid, but that's how it is.
Are you criminally responsible for your actions when you are on a mission?
No, not at all. Criminal responsibility is, if you will, impaired by the fact that we work under the auspices of the state. In fact, I believe that if there is a motto for the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure, the French Special Services, it would be, the end justifies the means.
There is no limit. That means, in the end...
There is no limit. Yes, that's it.
So that means there is no limit to deceiving the other?
Absolutely.
But then, isn't it illegal?
But that is completely illegal for sure. All I can tell you is, with a watermark behind me, that everything is illegal. Do you think that betraying someone, trying to make someone betray, is legal? But it's horrible.
No, but you're right. It's true.
That's what's fascinating, having the state's approval to do illegal things. Me, I find that it fascinates me.
But why an illegality?
Listen, I'm going to tell you something that's trivial. When you bring someone to betray, is it good or not good for you? No, well, there you go. So it's not good. It's illegal to do that. Well, it becomes legal because we do it under the permission of the state.
Yes, you have prerogatives, so it automatically becomes lawful.
But if I did that on my own, well, that would be illicit. What is illicit for the good of the state? It's possible. There you go. I have no moral or ethical issues with that. We are always in a state of war. That's what I tell myself. Clausewitz said that just because we are at peace, in terms of peace, doesn't mean we won't go to even our allies to pump documents from them. And yet they are allies. I may shock you, but that's the way it is.
With my current perspective, I believe this person is untrustworthy. Finally, I'm not saying that you are someone quite charming, but I would always be wary. If I had you in my circle, I would have a kind of constant paranoia. For example, if I were your wife or your daughter, I would ask myself, has he done wrong things? Is he as nice as he seems? Is he a good person? Could he disregard his principles to obey the orders he was given?
I agree about the charming part. As for the rest, I was going to say that I completely disagree. Although there are points and traits that are absolutely true about the lie and all that. But the lying, the stealing, the compromise, all that, it's part of the job. It's not part of everyday life. True thing that you said it's a fascinating job. That's true. Who scares you? Who scares you now? Yes, because you said to yourself, you said it, lying. It's easy for me to lie. Maybe yes.
Have you ever recognized your profession in all that is cinematic, the films or series that have come out? The Bureau of Legends?
It's a very good series. It's almost believable, except that working under legend for a year or two, for me, it's impossible. When you stay a month in a country, even an allied country, it's difficult because you can make mistakes. One day, I was in a country, I went to a nightclub to relax. It was evening, I drank quite a lot of beer, all that. And the next morning, I don't know if they still exist, traveler's checks, travel checks. In Aquarius, you put your signature, and I made a mistake with it because when you're undercover, everything is false. The signature, the woman, the wife, in short, fortunately, I noticed it, so I made a correction.
You had benefits, everything that is, for example, company car, housing, driver.
Yes. Go ahead, sorry.
Bodyguard.
There is only money's all you care about, you. It's unbelievable.
I would really like to know if I should get myself with an agent from the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure or not.
Doing this job, maybe. No. Not a car of function, on the other hand. Neither was the housing paid for. But we had a corresponding salary, I said it earlier, which was tripled, even quadrupled.
Have you ever had trouble getting out of a legend, a role that you assigned yourself for a mission?
No. I've never had any difficulty because we learned to dissociate the two, that is to say life, one's own life, and then the other life. We are asked to play, but only for a brief period, no longer than a month, I believe. During all our training, we are monitored, we are controlled by psychiatrists. If they see that we are unstable, if there are moral issues, if we have problems, even in the responses or in the attitudes that we have, well, no, we cannot be a case officer. It's not possible. It's a difficult job that we can't find. I said it. I say it again at the employment center or crossing the road. When Macron said that one day, it made me jump.
Francois, I have a somewhat broader question. It's about the different intelligence services in the world. In your opinion, what are the best intelligence services?
In order, I might put the Mossad of Astasia. We were afraid of Astasia. It's the intelligence service of East Germany. Once upon a time, there was an intelligence service that wasn't called that, which is excellent, I think. They are the Mormons. Everyone knows the Mormons. There's another intelligence service that doesn't give its name. It's the Vatican. They go all over the world, don't they? We invite them to our home. An invitation to one's home is one of the ways to carry out a hidden manipulation.
So basically they would be partners, intelligence services.
However, it's not only them. There are also NGOs that go everywhere. They go to structures where we can't go, otherwise we get noticed.
So, when the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure orders a murder, can it sometimes involve very important people, like ministers, presidents, heads of large companies?
But yes, of course. I'm going to give a slightly offbeat example. In parallel, Pope John Paul II, someone was indeed ordered to kill him, after all. And Pope John Paul II, he is indeed the president of billions of men. Well, yes, I'm going very far in the answer. And then others like Kennedy, he was indeed killed by someone who was told to kill him. So they weren't fanatics?
No, they're not necessarily fanatics, right?
Okay, so what are the major cases of the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure?
But I won't tell you exactly.
You won't tell me.
I won't tell you exactly what subjects.
Why can't you be precise?
First, I don't have the right, I have a duty of reserve, and then I can also be condemned.
There's a conviction outright.
The big deal, of course, but not the firing squad. The death penalty no longer exists in France, but it did in the past. For this kind of things,
You could have gone as far as the death penalty before.
betraying one's country is usually the death penalty.
Are you aware of the reasons for your mission, the missions that have been entrusted to you? Did they tell you why?
No, we don't realize it. I will answer with an example. Well, I studied earlier, I said it at the Jesuit Fathers, so I did Latin for, 5-6 years. I never questioned why we studied Latin. Latin greatly develops analytical and synthesis skills. Here, it's the same. When I was given these missions, it was part of the training that I had integrated this training system from the beginning. I never asked myself that question. The first day I started training, they had me do a dictation. I said still a dictation. I did higher studies to do sincere. It's still a bit funny, still. Me, I did my dictation, I don't ask myself any questions. If I had asked myself questions, or if we had all asked ourselves the same question, it would have been weird anyway. No, we were already performed.
And besides, how come you can testify with your face uncovered today? So what tells us that you
are really an agent of the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure?
There are two questions. So the first is, did you ask for permission to do what I'm doing right now? So I didn't ask for permission first to write the 2 books that I wrote, because if I had asked, I think it would have been denied. That said, the directors of the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure, I know few, who said nothing upon their departure. All, practically all, have written Hollande. Hollande was not an agent, he was not a case officer. François Hollande said things he shouldn't have when he left the presidency. If the president allows himself to do that, why wouldn't I, a nobody, go write what I want to write? That said, I have some reservations, I made some reservations, it's obvious.
But you don't sign a confidentiality clause.
Yes, on the way out, yes, but I went over it.
Are there women agents today?
Well, intelligence agents, there have been some. Josephine Baker, since we're talking about her right now, I think she was one. She provided intelligence to the French state, but there aren't many women.
What is the number one enemy of the Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure?
All countries, when it comes to gathering technical and even political intelligence, besides. Because it may not be the opinion of the state, but in any case, the economic opinion of a state.
Have you ever almost lost your identity and been identified by an enemy? I don't know, me doing a mission.
No, but I can answer by skewing a bit. It was in Ethiopia, and I was ready to recruit a handling officer from East Germany. That's still amazing, because if I had done that, I would have pulled it off well. Well, when I reported, because after each meeting with a source, we report by message. Well, when I reported, they told me, oh, there, you're going to get recruited yourself. Why? Because we had given ourselves up to each other. And this diplomat from the Deutsche Demokratische Republik, so from East Germany, had offered me a back record. I mentioned in my report that they offered me a gift. They said it was to recruit and manipulate me. So stop everything. Well, I stopped. They told me to stop. I stopped. It's a shame.
What kind of secret can't you share? So,
I don't really remember. What are the secrets that I might potentially hide? It would be what we call secrets, for example, of making a material. Why? Because it shortens. A manufacturing process takes years perhaps to be developed, to become commercially viable.
And today, what is it? Your greatest pride?
It's having been in these so-called special intelligence services. I'm proud to have succeeded too. I'm not saying I was an excellent case officer. If I was a case officer, I was good. Because if you're not good, you don't stay a case officer. Dear sir, how do you represent me?
Perhaps you have glasses.
I imagine you like Pierce Brosnan.
a gentleman in a suit and tie.
With somewhat leather, somewhat boat shoes.
In the 7th, 16th of the beautiful neighborhoods, I have this image.
It's funny.
A cardigan. You see the cardigans?
Black glasses.
With a bit of salt and pepper hair, very handsome man with piercing blue eyes.
Well, really then.
No, I think you are the gentleman. Everyone we can meet on a street corner and with whom we can chat at length without knowing that he is an agent.
And with a small Rolex, but thin, not Puff Daddy.
I get up, so it's Alain Delon, I don't know.
Oh,
Hello.
Too cute. So I don't have glasses, but I do have glasses, no hat either.
Nice to meet you, François.
I had seen
Just